The diplomatic vessel cut through space like a silver needle, leaving trails of blue light behind it. Inside the bridge, Taman stood with his hands pressed against the viewing window, watching the planet grow larger. Felithor Prime looked like a giant pearl floating in the darkness, its surface covered with crystalline structures that caught the light of 3 distant suns. Nervous? Jiwoo appeared beside him, holding 2 cups of coffee. She handed one to Taman and smiled. "You've been standing here for an hour." Taman took the cup gratefully. 6 months of preparation, learning their language, studying their customs, memorizing every protocol, and now we're actually here. "You'll do fine," Jiwoo said. "You always do. Remember that disaster on the Threll station? You talked us out of a diplomatic incident because you noticed their antenna movements meant something different than we thought." That was different. The Threll were just confused. "The Velothi are," Taman searched for words. "They're one of the most powerful civilizations in the Coalition. If we mess this up, humanity loses access to technology that could change everything back home." Captain Hyunwoo's voice echoed through the ship's speakers. "All personnel prepare for approach. We'll be docking in 30 minutes. The next half hour passed in a blur. Taman changed into his formal diplomatic attire, a blend of human military precision and coalition styling. He checked his translation device 3 times, even though he could speak Velothi fluently now. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. The docking process was smooth. When the airlock doors opened, Taman stepped onto Velothi soil for the first time. The air tasted different, cleaner somehow, with a faint metallic tang. The corridor leading from the dock was made entirely of crystal that seemed to glow from within. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Captain Hyunwoo walked beside him, his expression calm despite the importance of this moment. "The Velothi grow these structures. They don't build them the way we do. Each building is actually alive in some way we don't fully understand." A delegation of Velothi officials waited at the end of the corridor. They were tall, much taller than humans, with skin that looked like polished stone in shades of silver and blue. Their eyes were large and violet, and they moved with a grace that seemed almost liquid. The head diplomat bowed slightly. "Welcome, representatives of Earth. The royal family awaits you in the Grand Hall. Please follow us." The walk through the palace was overwhelming. Every surface caught and reflected light in impossible ways. Taman saw gardens growing upside down on ceilings, water flowing in spirals through the air without containers, and colors he didn't have names for. Jiwoo kept whispering, "How are they doing that?" Until Captain Hyunwoo quietly told her to maintain composure. Finally, they entered the Grand Hall. It was enormous, with a ceiling so high it disappeared into soft, blue light. Hundreds of Velothi filled the space, all dressed in formal robes that seemed to shift colors as they moved. At the far end, a massive staircase descended from an upper level. "The royal family will arrive shortly," their escort announced. "Please stand in the designated area." Taman took his position next to Captain Hyunwoo. His heart hammered in his chest. He reviewed the greeting protocol in his mind one more time. Bow at 45 degrees. Wait for acknowledgement. Speak the formal greeting in High Velothi. Simple. He could do this. A low tone filled the hall like a bell made of crystal. Everyone fell silent. The royal family appeared at the top of the stairs. The emperor was massive, his robes flowing behind him like liquid silver. The empress moved beside him, her presence commanding despite her silence. And between them, slightly ahead, walked Princess Arin. Taman had seen images of her in the briefing materials, but they hadn't captured the reality. She seemed to radiate light, her crystalline features perfect and sharp. Her violet eyes were brighter than any others he'd seen, and her movements carried a confidence that spoke of centuries of royal training. The royal family descended the stairs slowly, ceremonially. Princess Arin's role was to offer the first greeting to foreign delegations. It was an honor, a sign of respect from the Velothi Empire to Earth's growing importance in the coalition. Taman prepared himself. He would meet her eyes briefly, bow, and speak the words he'd practiced 1,000 times. Nothing could go wrong. He wouldn't let his entire species down. Princess Arin reached the bottom of the stairs. She moved forward, her gaze sweeping across the human delegation. Then her eyes met Taman's. She stopped walking. Her entire body went rigid, like someone had turned her to stone. Her violet eyes widened and her mouth opened slightly. The color seemed to drain from her crystalline features. The hall fell into shocked silence. Taman stood frozen himself, Terrified he'd already done something wrong. Had he looked at her incorrectly? Was there some protocol he'd missed? His mind raced through everything he'd learned, searching for his mistake. Velati guards around the room tensed. Their hands moved toward weapons that Taman couldn't see but knew existed. The temperature in the hall seemed to drop. Captain Hyunwoo stepped forward quickly, his hands raised in a peaceful gesture. "Your Highness, if we have offended in any way, we deeply apologize." Princess Erin held up one hand, stopping him. The gesture was shaky, uncertain. She was still staring at Taman, her expression cycling through shock, confusion, and something that looked almost like fear. "No," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, then louder, forcing control back into her tone. "No offense has been given. I apologize for my reaction. Please forgive my rudeness." She tore her gaze away from Taman and addressed Captain Hyunwoo directly. Her words were formal, correct, but Taman could see the effort it took. She completed the greeting ceremony, welcomed the human delegation, and spoke all the required diplomatic phrases. But every few seconds her eyes would flick back to Taman, as if she couldn't help herself. The ceremony continued, but the atmosphere had changed. Whispers filled the hall. The Velati present exchanged confused glances. The Emperor's expression was unreadable, but his attention remained fixed on his daughter. When the formal reception finally ended, Velati escorts led the human delegation to their quarters in the guest wing of the palace. The rooms were stunning, with walls that showed views of the planet's surface and furniture that seemed to grow from the floor itself. Jiwoo grabbed Taman's arm the moment they were alone. "What was that? What just happened out there?" "I don't know," Taman said honestly. "I didn't do anything. I just looked at her and she looked terrified," Jiwoo finished. "And of you. Why would a princess of one of the most powerful species in the galaxy be terrified of a human linguist?" Captain Hyunwoo entered the room, his expression serious. "Taman, I need you to think carefully. Is there anything in your background, your family history, anything at all that might be significant to the Velati?" Taman shook his head. "Nothing. I'm from Seoul. My family has been there for generations. We're ordinary people. Teachers, engineers, nothing special." "Well, something about you is very special to Princess Erin," Captain Hyunwoo said, "and until we know what, we need to be extremely careful." That night, Taman couldn't sleep. He kept replaying the moment when Princess Erin's eyes met his. The look on her face haunted him. It wasn't just surprise or shock, it was recognition, as if she knew him somehow. His personal device chimed softly around midnight. A message appeared, sender unknown. It contained only coordinates and a time. 1 hour from now, Jiwoo was asleep in the next room. Captain Hyunwoo had retired to his quarters. Taman knew he should report this, should follow protocol. But something pulled at him, a need to understand what had happened in that hall. He dressed quietly and slipped out of the guest quarters. The palace corridors were dimly lit at night, the crystal walls glowing softly. He followed the coordinates to a garden area, a space open to the planet's night sky where strange plants grew in patterns that seemed almost mathematical. He waited in the moonlight of 3 moons, wondering if this was a trap, wondering if he was making a terrible mistake. Then she appeared from the shadows. Princess Erin alone, without guards or attendants. She moved toward him slowly, her expression a mixture of wonder and disbelief. "You shouldn't exist," she whispered, her voice shaking. "Your kind died out 3,000 years ago." Taman stared at Princess Erin, trying to make sense of her words. "I don't understand. Humans are from Earth. We've been there for thousands of years." Princess Erin moved closer, her violet eyes studying every detail of his face. "May I?" She raised her hand slowly, waiting for permission. Taman nodded, too confused to do anything else. Her fingers touched his face gently, tracing the line of his jaw, his cheekbone. Her skin felt cool and smooth, like polished stone. "Exactly the same," she breathed. "The bone structure, the proportions, even the warmth of your skin. You are first wanderers, but that's impossible." "First wanderers?" Taman asked. "Who are they?" Princess Erin pulled her hand back and looked around the garden nervously. "We cannot talk here. There are sensors everywhere in the palace. Come with me, please. I know this is strange, but I need to show you something. Something that will change everything you believe about your people." Every instinct told Taman this was dangerous. He was alone with an alien princess who had just said he shouldn't exist. He should return to the guest quarters immediately and report this encounter. But the desperate honesty in her eyes stopped him. "Led the way," he said. Princess Erin moved through the palace with practiced ease, taking corridors that seemed rarely used. They descended deeper into the structure, passing through areas that looked ancient even by Velothi standards. Finally, she stopped before a wall that looked like solid crystal. She pressed her hand against it and spoke words in a language Taman didn't recognize. The wall shimmered and opened, revealing a chamber beyond. "The royal archives," Princess Erin explained. "Only members of the imperial family can enter. What I'm about to show you is classified at the highest level. If anyone learns I've brought you here, both of us will face serious consequences." The archive chamber was filled with floating crystals, each one glowing with stored information. Princess Erin moved to a specific section and gestured. Images appeared in the air before them, holographic and incredibly detailed. Taman gasped. The images showed humans. Not Velothi, not any other alien species he'd encountered. Humans. They wore strange clothing and their technology looked different, but they were unmistakably human. "The first wanderers," Princess Erin said softly. "They appeared in this region of space approximately 3,200 years ago. Nobody knew where they came from. They simply arrived, already possessing technology that rivaled or exceeded most coalition species." She gestured again, and more images appeared. Humans building cities on alien worlds. Humans piloting ships that looked nothing like modern human vessels. Humans standing alongside Velothi in what appeared to be formal ceremonies. They were peaceful mostly, curious explorers who seemed driven to understand everything they encountered. The Velothi Empire formed a close alliance with them. My ancestor, Emperor Veleth III, called them brothers. Princess Erin's voice carried a note of sadness. But then came the silence. The images changed, showing star charts and dates. 3,000 years ago, every first wanderer colony, every ship, every outpost went dark simultaneously. In a single moment, they simply vanished. Billions of people gone without explanation. No distress signals, no warnings, just silence. Taman felt cold. What happened to them? "Nobody knows," Princess Erin said. "The coalition searched for decades. They found empty cities with food still on tables, ships drifting in space with no crew. Everything intact, but the people were gone. Eventually, the search was abandoned. The first wanderers became a mystery, a ghost story used to frighten young ones. Over centuries, most species forgot they ever existed. But the Velothi remembered," Taman said quietly. Princess Erin nodded. "We kept the records. My family maintained the archives because we made a promise to them. A treaty bound our bloodlines together. We swore to remember them, to keep their memory alive until they returned." She pulled up another set of images. These showed what looked like DNA sequences and biological data. "We kept genetic samples, medical records, everything we could preserve. And now you appear 3,000 years later, identical in every way. When I saw you in the hall, I thought I was seeing a ghost." Taman's mind raced. "You think modern humans are descendants of these first wanderers? That we're the same species?" "I don't think," Princess Erin said firmly. "I know. Look at this." She displayed 2 DNA sequences side by side. "This is a first wanderer genetic marker, and this is the profile our sensors took of you when you entered the palace. All visitors are scanned automatically, standard security procedure." The sequences were identical. Taman sat down heavily on a crystalline bench. "This doesn't make sense. Earth's history goes back much further than 3,000 years. We have archaeological evidence, genetic records, evolution charts. We know where we came from. Do you?" Princess Erin asked gently. "Or do you have evidence that seems to show where you came from? Tell me, are there gaps in your history? Periods where things don't quite add up?" Taman thought about it. He remembered discussions from university, debates about certain archaeological mysteries, missing links in the evolutionary chain, unexplained jumps in human development, ancient structures that seemed too advanced for their time period. "There are questions," he admitted, "but scientists explain them with theories about lost knowledge. Natural disasters destroying records. Or," Princess Erin said, "there are questions because modern humans aren't native to Earth. You're descendants of survivors who somehow made it back to your origin planet, who lost their memories and technology over generations." The implications were staggering. If this was true, humanity's entire understanding of itself was wrong. Why didn't the Coalition tell us this when we made first contact? Taman demanded. Why keep it secret? Princess Erin's expression darkened. Because of what else the first Wanderers could do. They weren't just advanced. They were different. They possessed abilities that frightened other species. She pulled up more records. First Wanderers couldn't be controlled by psychic species. Telepaths couldn't read their minds. Mind control simply didn't work on them. They could adapt to any environment with shocking speed. And they could interact with dark matter technology in ways nobody else could. Dark matter technology? Taman asked. Technology that operates in dimensions we can barely perceive, Princess Erin explained. Most species can't even detect it, let alone use it. But first Wanderers could see it, touch it, manipulate it as easily as you might use a computer. The Valathi texts call it the void touch. Taman felt overwhelmed. This is too much. I'm just a linguist. I study languages and cultures. I don't have any special abilities. I can't see dark matter or resist telepathy. Perhaps those abilities were lost over time, Princess Erin suggested, or perhaps they're dormant, waiting for the right trigger. But Taman, I need to test you. With your permission? I want to run genetic analysis to see if you still carry the specific markers that made First Wanderers unique. And if I do? Taman asked. Princess Erin hesitated. Then we need to be very careful about who learns this information. Not everyone in the Coalition has fond memories of the First Wanderers. Some species feared them. Some believed they were dangerous. If those species learn that humans are First Wanderers returning, there could be serious political consequences. Taman stood up, pacing the archive chamber. My captain needs to know about this. Earth's government needs to know. This is too big to keep secret. I agree, Princess Erin said. But we need to be smart about how we reveal it. Let me run the tests first. Let's confirm what we're dealing with before we create a panic. Taman was about to respond when alarm sirens suddenly filled the palace. The crystal walls pulsed with red light, and Princess Erin's personal device chimed urgently. She looked at the message and her face went pale. No, not now. What is it? Taman asked. The Coalition Council has issued an emergency order. All human vessels are being recalled to Earth immediately. The Council is mobilizing the fleet. She looked up at him, fear clear in her eyes. Taman, something terrible has happened, and I think it has everything to do with the First Wanderers. Taman's communicator buzzed. Jiwoo's panicked voice crackled through. Taman, where are you? Get back to the ship right now. They won't tell us what's happening, but Captain Hyunwoo says we're leaving within the hour. The whole delegation is being evacuated. Princess Erin grabbed Taman's hand. Listen to me. Whatever happens next, whatever the Coalition tells you, remember what you've learned here tonight. You are First Wanderers. Your people have a history that spans the galaxy, and I believe you're here for a reason. What reason? Taman asked desperately. I don't know yet, Princess Erin admitted, but the archives mention something. A prophecy. A prediction made by the First Wanderers before the silence. They spoke of an inheritor. Someone who would appear when they returned. Someone who would finish what they started. You think that's me? I think the universe doesn't believe in coincidences, Princess Erin said. Now go, return to your ship. I'll contact you as soon as I learn what's happening. Taman ran through the palace corridors, his mind spinning. By the time he reached the guest quarters, Jiwoo was already packing their belongings. Where were you? She demanded. I'll explain later, Taman said. We need to get to the ship. The evacuation was chaotic. Human delegations from across Velathor Prime were being rushed. The journey back to Earth took 3 days. 3 days of confusion, rumors, and growing fear. The ship's crew spoke in whispers. Other human vessels traveling alongside them reported the same thing. Complete information blackout from the Coalition. Captain Hyunwoo called an emergency meeting in the conference room. His usual calm demeanor was cracked, showing the stress underneath. Ambassador Mireille attended via hologram, her image flickering slightly from the secure transmission. I need everyone to understand the gravity of our situation, Captain Hyunwoo began. Ambassador Mireille has finally received classified information from Earth Command. What I'm about to tell you cannot leave this room. Taman sat next to Jiwoo, his hands gripping the table edge. He had spent the past 3 days thinking about Princess Erin's revelations, about the First Wanderers and their mysterious disappearance. Something told him those secrets were connected to whatever was happening now. Ambassador Mireille's hologram leaned forward. The Coalition has always been suspicious of humanity. From the moment we achieved faster-than-light travel, certain species questioned how we developed the technology so quickly. We invented it, Jiwoo said. The research took decades. Yes, Ambassador Mirai agreed. But the timeline bothered them. Most species take centuries to develop FTL capability. Humanity went from first spaceflight to crossing light years in less than 300 years. Some coalition members suggested we didn't invent the technology. They suggested we remembered it. Taemin's blood ran cold. They know about the first wanderers. Everyone turned to look at him. Captain Hyunwoo's eyes narrowed. Explain that statement, Taemin. Taemin realized he couldn't keep Princess Erin's secrets anymore. He told them everything. The midnight meeting, the archives, the genetic evidence. When he finished, the room sat in stunned silence. Ambassador Mirai was the first to speak. That confirms what we feared. 2 weeks ago, an archaeological team working in the Outer Rim discovered a structure, a massive construct on a dead planet, clearly artificial and incredibly ancient. She pulled up images on the conference room display. The structure was enormous, a complex of towers and domes that seemed to grow from the planet's surface like crystalline bones. The architecture was strange but somehow familiar. These symbols, Taemin said, pointing at markings visible on the structure's surface. They're proto-human languages, ancient Earth languages that historians thought were completely separate, but here they are together, mixed in a way that suggests a common origin. The coalition linguistic team reached the same conclusion, Ambassador Mirai said. But it gets worse. Inside the structure, they found warnings, written in a language they eventually translated, though it took weeks. The warnings spoke of something called the Harbinger Protocol. She pulled up more images, these showing the interior of the structure, walls covered in text, some carved, some appearing to be formed from light itself. The warnings suggest that the first wanderers created something catastrophic, a weapon or technology so powerful that it led to their own extinction. The texts describe an event, a moment when the Harbinger Protocol activated and the silence began. They're connected, Taemin said. The weapon and the disappearance. The coalition believes so, Ambassador Mirai confirmed. And they've drawn a logical conclusion that terrifies them. If modern humans are descendants of the first wanderers, we might unknowingly carry the knowledge or ability to recreate whatever destroyed that ancient civilization. Jiwoo slammed her hand on the table. That's ridiculous. We don't know anything about this protocol or weapon. We're not a threat to anyone. Fear doesn't listen to logic, Captain Hyunwoo said quietly. The coalition is afraid. And frightened people make dangerous decisions, Ambassador Mirai nodded grimly. Several species, led by Lord Vexir of the Threll, are demanding action. They want all humans genetically sampled. They want Earth placed under coalition oversight. Some are even calling for humanity to be quarantined until we can prove we're not a danger. They can't do that, Taemin said. We're a sovereign species. We have rights under coalition law. Laws can be changed when enough species agree, Ambassador Mirai replied. And right now, fear is spreading fast. The discovery of that structure and its warnings has created a panic. Species that were neutral toward humanity are now voting with the hardliners. Taemin felt sick. Everything Princess Erin had warned about was coming true. The political consequences she mentioned were already happening. His communicator vibrated. A message from an encrypted source appeared. Meet me. Same place as before, but virtually. Accept the incoming connection. Taemin excused himself from the meeting, claiming he needed a moment to process everything. In his private quarters, he accepted the connection. A holographic projection of Princess Erin appeared, her image shimmering slightly. Taemin, thank the stars you're safe, she said immediately. I don't have much time. My father has restricted my access to communication systems, but I found a way around them. Erin, what's happening? The coalition is talking about quarantining Earth. I know, it's worse than you think. Lord Vexir has convinced half the council that humans are an existential threat. He's using the Outer Rim discovery to push for immediate action. She looked around nervously, checking that she wasn't being monitored. But I found something in the archives. Something that contradicts their interpretation of the warnings. Tell me, Taemin urged. The genetic tests I wanted to run on you? I managed to access the scans our sensors took when you arrived. Taemin, you carry a specific genetic marker. It's rare, incredibly rare. Maybe 1 in a billion humans would have it. The archives call it the inheritor's mark. The inheritor? Taemin repeated, remembering her mentioning it before. You said the first wanderers prophesied about someone. According to the text, the inheritor would be a bridge maker, someone who speaks old tongues and connects divided peoples. The genetic marker is like a key, a biological trigger for something the first wanderers left behind. Princess Erin's expression was intense. But here's what the Coalition doesn't understand. The warnings in that structure aren't about a weapon. They're incomplete, taken out of context. What do you mean? I've been cross-referencing the Outer Rim text with our archives. The Harbinger Protocol wasn't designed to destroy. It was designed to save. The first wanderers discovered something terrible at the edge of known space, an entity they called the Consuming Void. It devoured entire star systems and they couldn't stop it. Taman felt his heart race. The silence. They didn't die. They hid. Exactly, Princess Erin said excitedly. They created a sanctuary, a pocket dimension where they could preserve themselves until the threat passed. The Harbinger Protocol was the key to entering that sanctuary, but something went wrong. The activation happened too quickly, before everyone could prepare. That's why they vanished so suddenly. And they left behind genetic markers, Taman said, understanding dawning. Insurance that their descendants might one day return. Earth was one of the seeded worlds. Your planet's evolutionary gaps, the unexplained advances in ancient civilizations, the mysterious similarities between separated cultures, all of it points to first wanderer intervention. They left humans on Earth, stripped of advanced technology to develop naturally until you were ready to reclaim the stars. Taman paced his quarters. Why are you telling me this? What do you want me to do? Princess Erin's image flickered. Because the Consuming Void is coming back. Our deep space sensors have detected anomalies at the Galactic Rim. Spatial distortions that match exactly the descriptions from First Wanderer records. The Coalition scientists don't know what they're looking at, but I do. And if I'm right, everyone in this galaxy is in terrible danger. How long do we have? Months, maybe weeks. The anomalies are accelerating. Outposts at the Rim are already going silent. She looked directly at him. Taman, the Coalition is making a catastrophic mistake. They're so focused on containing humanity that they're ignoring the real threat. You need to make them understand. They won't listen to me. I'm just a linguist. You're the inheritor, Princess Erin said firmly. You carry the key in your DNA. You're the only one who can activate the Harbinger Protocol if it comes to that. Before Taman could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. Captain Hyunwoo's voice came over the speakers. All hands battle stations. We have multiple Coalition vessels approaching. They're demanding we stand down and prepare to be boarded. Princess Erin's image became more distorted. They're jamming communications. Taman, listen to me carefully. Don't let them take you. Lord Vexier has convinced the Council to authorize your detention for genetic experimentation. If they get their hands on you, they'll tear you apart trying to understand how you work. What do I do? Taman asked desperately. Survive. Find a way to reach the Outer Rim structure. That's where the answers are. Where the Harbinger Protocol can be activated if necessary. I'll try to help from my end, but... Her image broke apart completely. Remember who you are, Taman. Remember what your people once were. The connection died. Taman ran back to the bridge. Through the viewing windows, he could see Coalition warships surrounding their vessel. These weren't diplomatic ships. These were mellow... The standoff lasted 3 hours. Captain Hyunwoo refused to surrender Taman, and the Coalition ships refused to back down. The tension on the bridge was thick enough to cut with a knife. Every crew member stood at their station, ready for whatever came next. Then everything changed. A massive Velothi warship dropped out of faster-than-light travel directly between the human vessel and the Coalition forces. Its weapons were powered but not aimed at anyone. A transmission came through immediately. This is Princess Erin of the Velothi Empire. By the authority of my bloodline and the ancient treaties between the First Wanderers and my people, I am claiming sanctuary rights for Taman and all humans aboard this vessel. Any species that attacks them attacks Velethor itself. The Coalition ships hesitated. The Velothi Empire was too powerful to challenge directly, especially over what they probably saw as a minor diplomatic incident. Lord Vexier's insectoid face appeared on the main screen, his compound eyes reflecting anger. Princess, you overstep your authority. The Council has made its decision. The Council can make whatever decisions it wants, Princess Erin replied coldly. But ancient law supersedes Council authority. I'm sure your legal experts will confirm this. Now withdraw your ships before this becomes a much larger problem. Slowly, reluctantly, the coalition vessels pulled back. But Taman could see this wasn't over. They were being allowed to leave, not freed. The Velothi warship docked with their vessel. Princess Erin came aboard personally, accompanied by an old Velothi whose crystalline skin had darkened with age. "This is Elder Soren," Princess Erin introduced. "He's one of the last Velothi who was alive during the final days of the first Wanderers. He has information you need to hear." They gathered in the conference room. Elder Soren moved slowly, but his violet eyes were sharp and clear. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of centuries. "I was young when the silence happened," he began. "Only 70 years old, barely an adult by our standards. But I remember the first Wanderers clearly. They were extraordinary beings. Curious, passionate, driven by a need to understand everything." He pulled up old holographic images, even older than the ones Princess Erin had shown Taman. These showed first Wanderers and Velothi working together, building something massive in space. "This is the Sanctuary Project. We helped them build it, though we never fully understood its purpose. The first Wanderers discovered something at the edge of the galaxy, an entity that existed partially outside normal space. They called it the Consuming Void. What was it?" Captain Hyunwoo asked. "A predator of some kind," Elder Saran said. "It fed on matter and energy, devouring entire star systems and leaving nothing behind. Not even debris, just nothing. The first Wanderers studied it, tried to communicate with it, tried to fight it. Nothing worked. It couldn't be reasoned with or destroyed." Jiwoo leaned forward. "So they ran?" "They did something far more clever," Elder Soren said. "They created a pocket dimension, a space that existed alongside our universe but separate from it. A sanctuary where they could hide until the consuming void moved on or died. But the process of entering the sanctuary required severing all connections to normal space. That's why they vanished," Taman said. "They didn't die. They successfully hid." "Exactly. But the timing was catastrophic. The consuming void arrived sooner than predicted. The first Wanderers had to activate the Harbinger Protocol before everyone was ready. Billions made it into the sanctuary, but not all. Some were left behind, scattered across different worlds." Elder Soren's image shifted, showing Earth. "Your planet was one of their origin worlds, where they first evolved before spreading across the stars. They left survivors there deliberately, with genetic markers that would eventually allow their descendants to find their way back to the stars." Ambassador Mireille, still attending via hologram, spoke up. "Why not just tell the survivors what happened? Why let humanity forget?" "Because knowledge of the consuming void would have driven them mad," Elder Saran said simply. "The first Wanderers were advanced, powerful beings, and even they barely comprehended what they faced. Primitive humans would have had no chance of understanding. Better to let them forget, to develop naturally to become strong again through their own efforts." Princess Erin stepped forward. "Elder Saran, tell them what you told me. About the current situation." The old Velothi's expression grew grave. "The consuming void is returning. Our deep space sensors confirm it. The same spatial signatures, the same distortions. It's coming back to this region of space, and this time there are no first Wanderers to hide us." The room fell silent. The weight of that statement crushed down on everyone. "The outposts at the Galactic Rim," Captain Hyunwoo said. "The ones going silent." "Being consumed," Elder Soren confirmed. "The void moves faster than we anticipated. At current speed it will reach Coalition core worlds within weeks." Taman felt his hands shaking. "The Harbinger Protocol. Can it be activated again? Can we get everyone into the sanctuary?" "That's the question," Princess Erin said. "The sanctuary still exists. Our sensors can detect its dimensional signature. But the protocol requires a specific genetic key to activate, a marker that only first Wanderers possessed." She looked directly at Taman. "A marker that you possess." Everyone turned to stare at him. Taman felt the weight of their gazes, the impossible expectation. "I don't know how to activate anything," he said desperately. "I'm not like the first Wanderers. I don't have their knowledge or abilities." "The marker isn't about knowledge," Elder Saran explained. "It's biological. Your DNA contains sequences that interact with the dark matter technology the first Wanderers used. When you approach the Harbinger structure, your presence alone will trigger certain systems. Then we go to the outer rim," Captain Hyunwoo decided immediately. "We take Taman to the structure and activate the protocol." "It's not that simple," Princess Erin said. "Lord Vexier and his faction won't allow it. They see Taman as a threat, not a solution. They'd rather capture and study him than risk activating First Wanderer technology they don't understand. Plus, Elder Soren added quietly, there's a cost to activating the Harbinger Protocol. The ancient texts are clear about this. The genetic key doesn't just open the door to the sanctuary. It anchors it. Someone with the marker must remain behind, must stand between our universe and the sanctuary, holding the connection open while others pass through. Taman felt cold. You're saying someone has to sacrifice themselves. That's what the first Wanderers intended, Elder Soran confirmed. A volunteer would stay behind, would face the consuming void alone while the rest of their people escaped. But the emergency activation 3,000 years ago happened before anyone could make that choice. They were pulled into an incomplete sanctuary, trapped in a half-state. Princess Erin touched Taman's shoulder gently. I won't lie to you. If we activate the protocol, if we save the coalition species, you would likely die. The room was silent.
Jiwoo looked horrified.
Captain Hyunwoo's expression was unreadable. Ambassador Mirai's hologram flickered as if she wanted to protest but couldn't find words. Taman stood up and walked to the viewing window. Outside, stars drifted past, countless worlds and civilizations that had no idea what was coming for them. How long until the consuming void reaches populated space? He asked. 2 weeks, Elder Soren said. Maybe 3. And how long would it take us to reach the outer rim structure? 5 days if we leave immediately and use Velati faster-than-light technology, Princess Erin answered. Taman did the math. They had time barely. Then we need to go now. Taman, no, Jiwoo said, standing up. There has to be another way. We can fight this thing or find a different solution, or there is no other way, Taman interrupted gently. You heard Elder Soran. The first Wanderers tried everything. They were more advanced than we are, and they couldn't stop it. The sanctuary is our only option. But you'd die, Jiwoo's voice cracked. Maybe, Taman said. Or maybe I'd be doing what the first Wanderers wanted their descendants to do. Finishing what they started. Captain Hyunwoo stood at attention. I can't order you to do this, Taman. This is beyond any reasonable duty. I know, Taman said. But I'm not doing it because of duty. I'm doing it because it's right. Princess Erin stepped beside him. There might be a way to improve the odds. My bloodline is connected to the first Wanderers through ancient treaties. My DNA carries resonance with theirs. If I help anchor the protocol, if I share the burden, you might survive. You'd be risking yourself, Taman said. Yes, Princess Erin agreed. But my people owe the first Wanderers a debt 3,000 years old. Let me help repay it. Ambassador Mirai's hologram spoke up. I'll inform Earth Command of the situation. But Taman, you should know that Lord Vexir has convinced several coalition species to support military action against humanity. If we head to the Outer Rim, we'll likely face opposition. Then we'll have to move fast, Captain Hyunwoo said. He turned to his crew. Plot a course for the Outer Rim structure. Maximum speed. And someone get me a line to the Velati war fleet. If we're doing this, we're doing it right. Within an hour, the plan was set. A small fleet would accompany them. Velati ships that answered to Princess Erin rather than the Council. They would race to the Outer Rim, hoping to reach the structure before the consuming void or before coalition forces could stop them. As the ship Exceller, the journey to the Outer Rim took 4 days of constant faster-than-light travel. 4 days where the consuming void devoured 3 more outposts, each one going silent in the middle of sending distress signals. 4 days where coalition forces debated and argued while precious time slipped away. On the 5th day, they arrived at the dead planet. Taman stood on the bridge, staring at the structure through the viewing window. It was even more massive than the images had suggested, rising from the planet's barren surface like a mountain made of crystal and metal. Parts of it seemed to shift and move even though nothing was actually changing, as if it existed in multiple dimensions at once. Dark matter construction, Elder Soren explained, standing beside him. Most species can only see the physical components. But if you could perceive dark matter, you'd see the structure is 10 times larger, extending into spaces our eyes cannot follow. Can you see it? Taman asked. No, Elder Soren admitted. But the first Wanderers could. And if the genetic marker works as it should, you will too. Captain Hyunwoo coordinated with the Velati ships. We have approximately 6 hours before coalition forces arrive. Long-range sensors show a fleet heading this way, led by Lord Vexir himself. If we're going to do this, it needs to happen fast. Princess Erin assembled a landing team. Taman, Elder Soren, Jiwoo, who insisted on coming despite the danger, and a dozen Velothi technicians equipped to study and document everything. They took a shuttle down to the planet's surface. The structure was even more imposing up close. The entrance was a massive archway covered in symbols that seemed to glow faintly. As Taman approached, the glow intensified. "It's reacting to you," Elder Soren said with wonder. "After 3,000 years of silence, it recognizes First Wanderer DNA." Taman stepped through the archway. The moment he crossed the threshold, the world changed. He could see it now. The dark matter components of the structure, like ghostly blueprints overlaying the physical architecture, they pulsed with energy, forming patterns and pathways that his mind somehow understood even though he'd never seen anything like them before. "Taman?" Jiwoo's voice sounded distant. "Are you okay?" "You stopped moving. I can see it," Taman breathed. "I can see everything. It's beautiful." The structure welcomed him deeper. Corridors opened before him that hadn't existed moments before. The walls displayed information directly into his mind, downloads of knowledge that felt both alien and familiar. He understood now what the first Wanderers had built, the genius and desperation that went into creating the sanctuary. They reached the central chamber, a vast space dominated by a platform covered in crystalline controls. Elder Soren gasped at the sight, his old eyes wide with amazement. "This is it," he said. "The Harbinger Control Center. This is where the protocol can be activated." Princess Erin stepped onto the platform beside Taman. "How does it work?" Taman touched the controls and knowledge flooded his mind. The sanctuary exists as a pocket dimension, anchored to specific coordinates in normal space. To open the gateway fully, someone with the genetic marker must establish a biological link with the dark matter framework. That link creates a bridge between dimensions. "And maintains it?" Princess Erin asked. "Yes," Taman confirmed quietly. "The bridge requires constant energy. The person anchoring it essentially becomes part of the structure, feeding it the bioelectric and quantum energy needed to keep the gateway stable." Jiwoo climbed onto the platform, her face determined. "Then we find another power source. We use technology instead of a person. There has to be a way." "The first Wanderers tried," Elder Soren said gently. "No artificial power source could maintain the dimensional stability. It requires something living, something with a specific genetic compatibility. Consciousness itself seems to be a key component. How long does the gateway need to stay open?" Captain Hyunwoo's voice came through their communicators from the ship above. Taman consulted the knowledge flowing through him. "For a full evacuation of Coalition space? Weeks, maybe months. Long enough to move billions of people through safely." The silence that followed was heavy. Everyone understood what that meant. Whoever anchored the gateway would be locked in place for weeks, slowly dying as the consuming void approached. "Unless," Princess Erin said slowly, "two people share the load. My genetic resonance with First Wanderer bloodlines isn't as strong as yours, Taman, but it exists. Together we might be able to maintain the gateway while supporting each other. You'd both still die eventually," Elder Soren pointed out. "Eventually isn't immediately," Princess Erin countered. "And perhaps during that time someone will find a better solution." Alarms suddenly blared. Captain Hyunwoo's voice came through urgently. "Coalition fleet just dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Multiple warships, all weapons hot. They're demanding we cease all activity and surrender Taman immediately." "How long do we have?" Taman asked. "Minutes. They're not bothering with negotiations this time." Taman looked at Princess Erin. "We need to decide now." She nodded. "Together, then. We do this together. Wait." Jiwoo grabbed Taman's arm. "Please, just wait. There has to be another way. We can talk to them, explain what's happening, make them understand." "There's no time," Taman said gently. He hugged his best friend tightly. "Tell my family I love them. Tell them I did something important." Before Jiwoo could respond, Taman and Princess Erin placed their hands on the central control crystal simultaneously. The structure exploded with light. Taman felt his consciousness expand, stretching across dimensions he couldn't name. He was himself, but also something more, something vast. He could feel Princess Erin beside him, her presence like a steady flame supporting him. Together, they spoke words that came from racial memory, from DNA encoded with instructions 3,000 years old. The sanctuary gateway opened. Above the planet, visible from space, a massive tear in reality appeared. It looked like a window into somewhere else. A place where colors existed that no one had names for. The gateway stabilized, held open by the two figures on the platform below. In the central chamber, Taman and Princess Erin stood frozen, their hands fused to the crystal, their eyes glowing with energy that wasn't quite light. They were still themselves, still conscious, but transformed into living conduits. "It's working," Elder Soren said, his voice full of wonder. "The gateway is stable. We can begin evacuation." But before anyone could move, Lord Vexir's fleet reached weapons range. Captain Hyunwoo's voice crackled through the communicators. "They're firing. Multiple ships targeting the structure." The first energy blasts hit the structure's shields, which flared with protective force. But the shields were 3,000 years old and not designed for sustained military assault. "They'll destroy everything," Jiwoo yelled. "They'll kill Taman and Erin and close the gateway." Elder Soran moved to a secondary control panel, his old fingers flying across ancient interfaces. "I'm sending a signal, broadcasting what's happening here to every coalition ship, every planet, every station. Let them see what their fear is destroying." Across the galaxy, on millions of screens, the scene played out. The gateway opening, Taman and Princess Erin anchoring it at the cost of their own lives, and Lord Vexir's fleet firing on them, trying to destroy humanity's sacrifice because it was easier to fear than to trust. The second wave of attacks hit harder. Part of the structure began to collapse. On the platform, Taman and Erin's bodies shook, with the strain of maintaining the gateway while the building around them was destroyed. Then, something impossible happened. The consuming void arrived. Early, it appeared at the edge of the system, a darkness that wasn't just the absence of light, but the absence of everything. Space itself seemed to die where it touched. Stars going out like candles in a storm. Every ship, coalition and human and Velothi alike, stopped firing. Every sensor focused on the approaching doom. "It's accelerating," someone whispered over the communications channel. "It's moving faster than predicted." Lord Vexir's face appeared on every screen, his compound eyes wide with horror. "What have we done?" "We've wasted time fighting each other while that thing approached. The gateway is open," Elder Soren broadcast to all ships. "Begin evacuation. All species, all people. There's room for everyone." For a moment, no one moved. 3,000 years of fear and suspicion paralyzed them. Then Captain Hyunwoo did something simple but profound. He ordered his ship to begin flying toward the gateway. "This is Captain Hyunwoo of Earth Vessel Horizon's Edge. We are entering the sanctuary. We trust that First Wanderers built this to save life, all life. We choose to believe in hope rather than fear." The human ship flew toward the massive dimensional tear, looking tiny against its vast scale. As it approached, the gateway's light seemed to welcome it, guiding it through. The ship passed through safely and emerged on the other side into a place that scanners couldn't fully comprehend. A pocket universe, vast and waiting. Seeing this, other ships began to move. First the Velothi fleet, loyal to their princess even now. Then others, species that had been neutral. One by one, vessels from across the coalition began the journey through the gateway. Lord Vexir's ship was one of the last to move. But it moved. "Even he see,"